Welcome back, everyone. I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Now, here in Trinidad, Colorado, located in beautiful downtown Trinidad, here at the Chappelle House. With me today, as I do the camera work too, is candidate Dean Ormiston, candidate for House District 47.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
All right. We had a little false start earlier, but we're going to get this right. So, Dean, I'm actually the audio guy and the camera guy, so as you see, I'm going to be doing both of these over here. But to get started here, you're running for House District 47, correct?
Yes.
And what I'd like to do as I interview people is I like to find out a little bit about them. You and I met a long time ago, but we don't know each other that well. And the people that are going to be voting for you may not know you that well. So that's what I want to get. That's what I want to do, is get to know you a little bit. And the people that are watching the program, give them a chance to get to know you. So let's just talk about your personal background. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You know, where you're born, where you've lived, educated, all those types of things. Anything that you want to share.
Okay, I was born in Beckett County, out on the plains in a rock house. I told everybody I wasn't born in a log cabin like Abraham Lincoln, but a rock house way out in the middle of nowhere. And I was the second son of a family of 6 children. And my father and mother worked hard all their life in agriculture and farmed. I grew up and went to school at Pritchett High School. Went to college at Adams State College for 6 years. Taught school in Lamar and Fort Garland. Then I couldn't make enough money to make a living teaching school, as if most teachers face these days. And so I went back to the ranch and borrowed a whole lot of money, and took 20 years to pay it off. But I think my good management and hard work paid the mortgage, and I am married. I have 3 grown children. One daughter is an attorney in Dallas, Texas. One daughter is a psychologist in New York City, and a son is a dispatcher of a large truck line in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I'm proud of my children. I think I taught them work ethic when they were young, just like my father taught me. And if you ever take a job, you don't just do the job, you overdo the job. You give it all of your attention and all of your abilities all the time.
Well, as an educator, I mean, education certainly is in the news. What were the subjects and things that you taught?
I taught industrial arts, architectural design, and physical education.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed teaching, and I think if teachers were paid a little better to where they could make a living, you would have more qualified teachers in the field.
Right. So do you still keep in touch with any of your students?
Yes, I do. I was campaigning in Lamar, Colorado, which I taught school there. And in the parade, some of my former students come walking up to the door of my truck and say, "Hey, I remember you. You were my teacher back in 1970.
Wow. That's got to have a good feeling to it.
It did, because I got along well with my teachers or students. You know, in the shop, if they think a kid's too dumb or too unruly to be in the other classes, they send him to the shop. And me and the students, I didn't have very many discipline problems, and we came to an understanding, because
Right.
when I was young, I think I was one of them.
So growing up, you grew up on a ranch, not a farm.
Well, it was a farm. We milked a lot of cows.
Oh, so it was okay.
And that's how we made a living. We sold the milk and cream, and my father worked on the county, and my mother worked in the fields with my father raising broomcorn in the old days, and I worked in the fields from the time I ever remember. You know, I milked cows when I was 6 years old, every morning and every night, and I'm used to hard work.
Right. So in that situation, your father, you know, being a rancher, farmer, or whatever, he still had a second job?
Yes, because in those days it was a small farm. It was only a half-section farm, and he raised broomcorn. But with 6 children, you have to have quite a bit of income to support them. And we didn't have all the frills some of the kids have these days, but we always had plenty to eat. We had clean clothes, and we were taught morals and work ethic.
Right. Well, I'm 6 of 7, so I know the big family story. But what's a half section?
Half section is 320 acres, and in 1950 on up to 1970, that was enough to kind of make a living. But now, if you don't have thousands of acres and large machinery, and you can't even think about making a living when a tractor costs $300,000.
Right. So, where you're from, have a lot of the farms and ranches converted to corporate?
They have, and the families have kind of incorporated their farms, and sometimes 4 or 5 of the family coexist on the same farm. But it is a large farm now.
Right. And so, what's broom corn?
Broom corn is what they used to make brooms out of. And we had transit workers from Mexico and South America and the Indian reservations out of Oklahoma come up, and it's all hand labor. And we cut it by hand, picked it up by hand, and sent it to a broom factory. And then it went broke when they come out with synthetic bristles for the brooms.
Well, an interesting side to that is we have a couple here in Los Animas County that go to the farmer's market that started up making those types of brooms again, and we have one upstairs. They're really actually a better broom.
They are. They're really good. And I worked in broom corn fields and helped seed broom corn, and I have a story about that. My father, when I was young and a teenager, you know how teenagers are, I would go out, and sometimes I partied a little too much and had a little too much to drink, and he frowned on that, but he never said much. But the next morning, he put me in the dirtiest job at the broom corn seeder that there was.
Did you learn anything from that?
Well, I was hard-headed, but yes, it taught me a lot of lessons. You have to be responsible for your actions.
Right. So that work ethic and growing up and working like that, you certainly you straightened out and raising the kids. You must have instilled that in them, as you said. They've been very successful themselves.
Yes, and my children always worked. They had jobs and had responsibilities from the time they were, old enough to take the responsibility. I didn't abuse the children, but they needed to work, and when you are raised that way, you kind of like to work.
Right. I think I was, I didn't grow up on a farm or a ranch, but my father was the same way. We needed to work if we wanted things. Yeah. So they provided the basics, but that's good. So Dean, what about your wife? Let's talk about her.
My wife is actually an immigrant from South America. She's from Ecuador, and she came to this country when she was young and learned English here, went to college here, educated, and she retired from being administration.
A school administration?
Yes, school administration. She run a program called the Parent Center.
Well, it's interesting. Anything else? Are we leaving out anything, as far as your personal background that you'd like people to know about you?
Well, my grandfather homesteaded in Backett County in 1912. I still live on the old homestead. My family is still in agriculture all around Pritchett and Springfield, Colorado, and we still live there and contribute to the county all we can.
Cool. All right, so let's shift gears here a little bit into your past public involvement. Have you ever been elected or appointed to any positions, in government?
Yes, I was county commissioner in Backett County for 4 years, and I didn't lose the election. I quit doing the job because I didn't think I was doing as much good there as I could somewhere else. And while I was on the commissioner. I was on the Department of Transportation boards, economic development boards, and tourism boards, because tourism is a real big thing in Colorado, and I'm very familiar with that.
Well, you actually then have some quite a bit of government experience.
Yes, and I was a volunteer emergency medical technician for 15 years also in Baca County, and that volunteer, you didn't get paid for it, but I got called out many nights to take care of auto accidents.
Right, that's interesting. You've got quite a bit of experience. I tell you what, we're going to take a short break, and let me get ready for my next questions here. So I'm going to put up my thing here. We're gonna mute this. And we're back. I'm Tom Murphy. This is Trinidad Now. I am with candidate Dean Ormiston, and we've talked about his past and a little bit about his personal life, his past public involvement, and what I want to get answered now, Dean, is tell me about District 47. What does it encompass? Because it's changed. I know when Wes was it was House District 64, but how did they redistrict it? What are the boundaries?
Well, when they redistrict, they put in Los Animas County, the east part of Pueblo County, Bent County, Pryor's County, Baca County, and Otero County, and all of the county areas right in the southeast corner of Colorado, from Oklahoma to the Kansas border.
So, is that probably one of the largest districts area-wise?
It is a real large district, and it's mostly rurally populated by ranches and farms. There is some cities like Trinidad and Pueblo and La Junta and Lamar, but those are the bigger cities in the district. The rest of them are small towns and all rural oriented.
Right. So your experience as being in the farm and ranch business, you can relate to the people that are in your district, right?
Yes, I farmed at one time. I had 5,000 acres of milo and 3,000 acres of wheat, 2 hired hands and all the machinery that went with it, and 400 mother cows. So yeah, I'm familiar with what a large operation is and what it takes to run it, and familiar with workman's compensation insurances and health care and retirement and all of those things that our workers these days need.
Right. And so too, but you understand all our issues, as a rural community.
Well, like I say, I'm familiar with them, but I don't understand all the problems because at my age I've learned I don't know all the questions. So how can I know all the answers if I don't even know all the questions? But if people that I represent would tell me what their problems are, I will listen, and if there's anything I can do, I will probably understand where they're coming from.
Right. So in campaigning, have you hit all the corners of the district?
I have went to most of the cities and the parades and visited with people, and I still am going to do a few more. I'm supposed to be in Holly tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your coming and being on here with us. We've kind of touched on this, with your prior experience. So, do you feel? I mean, clearly you're running for office, so you feel qualified to run for this office.
Yes, I do, and the main qualification is the need to have rural representation and common sense that we take into the legislature instead of emotional and special interest groups. And they're fine in their own place, but they don't rule our country. The majority should rule our country, and rural voice is something that's very necessary for this area.
Okay. So, what do you as a representative? You have the Senate and you have the House of Representatives in the state of Colorado. Define what your role is as a representative.
Well, I think my role is to represent the people that put me there first, and not take my personal preferences as a priority. It should be entered into the decision, but you should represent the people that put you there and do what they want. And I'm familiar with some of the operations. My business partner was a state representative before me, and I used to go to the state house and sit in on committees and the operations, so I'm familiar with how they work. And I sat in on a lot of those Army issues that they had a few years ago. So,
Dean, when you say your personal issues shouldn't influence, but of course at some point they will. I mean, you have your beliefs, and somebody might have a completely opposite view. I mean, your personal views at some point are going to have a factor in making your decision and how you vote, don't you think?
Yes, and sometimes you have to compromise a little, but you can't compromise your real firm moral beliefs, and you can't sacrifice the people that you represent. And I believe that the people that put me there, their wants and needs should be a first priority to me, because they're probably the ones I've had before them.
Okay. So you're going to be open, to people, wanting to talk to you and call you up and say, "Hey, Dean, I this is how I feel about this issue. I want you to vote yes or no on this issue." So, but the question is, you're going to listen, correct?
Yes, I'll do like the guy I'm talking about. He always said, "I'll listen to you. I may not do what you want, but I will listen."
Right.
and hear what you have to say. And we also know that you can torture the facts till they say anything you want them to, and I try not to do that.
That's good to know. Let's take a short break here, and this will be our last segment here. So I'm gonna turn on our audio and bring myself up. Guys, we're back. I'm Tom Murphy. This is Trinidad Now. I am with Dean Ormiston, candidate for House District 47. This is our third segment. Dean, I think, I'm a little bit rusty because I haven't interviewed anybody in a while, so forgive me if I'm missing anything. We're going to finalize this with just a few more questions. I think if you are going to run for office, it's any office, it's a position of leadership. What are your thoughts on leadership?
I think leadership should be done with regard to the people you're leading, and you shouldn't ask them to do anything that they're not capable of doing. It's kind of like training a horse. You don't ask him to do nothing he's not capable of doing.
Okay.
And I hate to ask people to do something they're not capable of doing, but I should be able to do what I ask them to do or know how to do it.
Right. Well, if you're elected into the House is my understanding, controls the purse, the budget. What do you know much about the state budget?
Well, what I know about it is that the state has always had a balanced budget, which I support a balanced budget. And fuel taxes go to highways, and so we have to be careful how much of the fuel taxes that we take off. I'm not in favor of high taxes at all, but some of the taxes are necessary, like fuel tax builds new roads and keeps the ones we got so we can travel on them and build bridges. And also the Tabor laws, I think Tabor needs to be revisited and maybe revised a little bit, because it was written at a time before the inflation in the economy has changed so much, and we need to change it to fit the economy we have now. And a budget should cover the needs, just like education should be special. Fire control should be a special issue. There are things that housing, there are health care. Those are problems that if we can do something to help them, we should be doing it.
Dean, one of the part of that answer makes me want to veer off into another question. Trinidad and Los Animas County in the last 25 years has had a lot of development in natural gas, and the state came in and levied taxes on the production, and that money goes to the north and they give back a little bit. There have been conversations through the years of the state shouldn't be taking that money from us. I mean, our roads and our schools and everything would be flourishing if we were able to get first grab at that money that's coming out of the ground that's in our district. Is that something you might consider, pursuing a conversation of, like, maybe Los Animas County should, have first dibs on the money that comes, from the natural gas that's coming out of the ground?
Yes, I agree with that, because if the natural gas comes here and the taxes come here, it ought to be distributed within the county instead of statewide, because the tax at the gas pump should take care of the state roads.
What this is the excise taxes, as I understand it. And as a former city or county manager told me, he said, "Tom, you got to understand something." He said, there are 100 legislators, and maybe 7 or 8 of them are from rural communities. So guess where they're going to take that money? They're going to take it to Denver. So it's just a conversation that happens here. And if you're elected, I can assure you, you're going to have some phone calls of people saying, we need to do something about keeping that money here instead of sending it up to Denver. So,
and I agree with that thoughts, because down in Backett County and 287 and Highway 160, Highway 50, the highway money from the Department of Transportation, I've worked on 10-year plans to work on these roads when I was county commissioner, and they build roads to Vail and the ski areas and I-70, and I know those are high traffic areas, but 287 through Backett County and I-25 down through Los Animas County, those are well-traveled roads, and they need the same attention.
And those roads, those are what is bringing our food to town, right? With the cattle and everything else. I mean, they're bringing in, the cattle for the, to be processed, and that's where our food comes from, right? From the
That's
rural
true.
roads.
And the freight from East Coast to West Coast a lot of times goes down Highway 50 and Highway 160 to miss the real high traffic roads like I-40 or I-70. And we need to keep those roads to where they work, just like coming over this morning on Highway 160. There was the road is so narrow, the trucks run off the edge of the road and wreck in the ditches, and we saw one this morning right there.
Right. So, Dean, a couple last questions here, and one, all you have to do is turn on the TV and whatever news program you go to. Our country is at a point we haven't seen in a long, long time. And I'm not going to ask you any specifics about any specific person or a specific issue, but generally, you can talk about specifically if you want, but what are your thoughts about what's happening nationally? How is that going to affect us here statewide and locally, with the politics that we're in right now?
Well, my opinion is that sometimes too much emphasis is put on whether you're Democrat or Republican. We need to be Americans first. We need to represent the people, and Democrats and Republicans need to work together for that entity instead of their own political gains and their own personal gains. I see on both parties in Washington that seems like they're doing it for their own personal gain and have no regard for the masses of the people and the majority. It's special interest groups seem to be controlling the country instead of the majority.
Is that special interest groups? Is that a problem? I know that's a problem nationally. Is that a problem at the state level too? Do you think?
Oh, I think so. I think it is, because some of these special interest groups have a lot of money in their budgets to spend to promote their ideas, and your normal person out there on a family farm doesn't have that money to promote his idea or wants or needs, and so it gets put on a back burner. The squeaking wheel gets the grease, as they say.
Right. Well, one of the things I've learned nationally is that once they're elected, they have to spend hours a day raising more money to get elected again. From your experience and the people that you know that were in office, is that something that you'll have to do? When you're elected to office, are you going to have to spend a bunch of time raising money?
Yes, and that is a big problem, especially with someone that wasn't born with $1 million in the bank, and I can't buy this office. Some people seem to not worry about making a living while they're doing the work. They buy the office, and it's more for the position and the power and the notoriety than it is for any other reason. I don't think some of them even take the job to help the people. I think it's a personal glorification.
Oops. Okay. Well, if I've left anything off the table, let me know. But what I'd like to do, as I said earlier, and I've done this for a long time with the candidates, is I'm going to let you wrap this up. And the camera is right here. So let me key this up. And however you'd like to wrap this up and what you'd like to say to the people that are going to watch this. This is going to be on YouTube, so to be seen worldwide. And then it's going to be on our local cable channel. I'm going to play it frequently, from now until election day. So this is your time to wrap up the show. I'll just say a couple words when you're done, but look at this camera and say whatever you'd like to the people, that might vote for you, and why.
Okay, one of the main things I would like to say, I keep hearing that we need to move away from fossil fuels because of the climate change. Well, I have a different opinion of that, and I'm also intelligent enough to know that fossil fuels are not going to go away for a long time. If you have an electric car, it needs to be charged, and electricity is produced a lot by fossil fuels. Our airplanes and our diesel trucks, it's going to be a long time before you can even convert those to electricity, if you can. And if you do, you better have the infrastructure to charge those vehicles before you go pass laws against fossil fuel vehicles. Also, the water, we need to protect our water. It is a precious commodity. People need water to drink. It's like I've said before, we can do without beer and whiskey and wine, but water is a necessity for us to live and to grow crops. We need the water to grow the crops. The people in the city need water, and they have water purification systems now that they have improved to where they do really good. I know I was talking to a person in Colorado Springs that said the water purification system that takes river water and even gray water and make it into potable water to where you can drink it. And we may need to go there, or purified salt water. But water is a precious commodity. And our educational systems, we need to make sure the kids have the best teachers and the best subjects to prepare them for the future. Some of the things they teach in school these days, I don't think really prepare them for the future. Our country is going to be in bad shape if all we think about is gender and race and all of these other issues. They're important, but it don't make you a living. And in the future, you have to make a living and make this world for your grandkids. And if I get elected to this office, all of those things will influence what I do.
Anything else, Dean?
I think that will say it, and I would appreciate the vote so I can represent the people, and they will have my email and my phone number, and I will try to return every call that's made to me.
Well, Dean, I appreciate it. I said I'm a little bit rusty. I haven't interviewed anybody in about a year. So, I do this infrequently or whatever. I'm trying to do it more frequently as we move along. But I appreciate it. I think it makes a difference for people to get a chance to actually see you, and get to know you a little bit. And that's why I like to get to know a little bit of your personal background too, because that says a lot about who you are. And it's interesting. You come from a big family. I come from a big family. You don't have a lot of those anymore.
No.
So I don't know how my parents did it like yours, but we're all still here, and things are going well. So, but I'm gonna wrap it up. Dan, I'm gonna do one last shot over here. I'm doing the audio and the cameras, guys. I'm Tom Murphy. This is Trinidad Now. Please like, share, and subscribe to Trinidad Times TV. I need more subscribers, and I'm hoping to get more of the candidates. Dean is my first interview of the season, and next time we do this, I'd like to get these done right after Labor Day so that people get a chance to watch this, because the once the ballots come out, I think the election is almost over. Mm-hmm. So we're going to post this as soon as we find out if we're going to get the other candidates on here, and then you'll be able to watch and make a decision. But I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Now. Thank you very much, folks.